And happy January 16th, 2021. We just went live, so I don't expect anybody to be in here just quite yet. So we'll let a few people filter in. But yes, happy January 16th, 2021. If you're in here and you can hear me, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I was actually going to use the mic on my Canon EOS M50, which is what I use as my webcam. And so it's a DT D3 Pro, and I forgot to turn it off. So it went into standby mode. I actually killed the battery, so I actually need to take it off the camera. And I need to, let's see here, if I can get it off here without blowing up the live stream. Perfect. So I need to plug it in, convenient USB-C charging. So this thing will be charged in just an hour or so. So I'll plug it in after the live stream, get it charged. That way, as I'm recording videos, I mean, I don't know if you've heard the audio in the last two videos that we've done, but this mic is producing some awesome, crispy audio. I'm actually thinking about doing a boom mic, and I would mount it like right there instead of on the camera, maybe like just like right here, like out of, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So over to the comments real quick. Good morning, Ashley. Hopefully Joe's up and is weighing in for our challenge. Clarence Christian, how are you doing, man? Hello from Denmark. Hey, Ryan. Yeah, Kickapoo Shell Station. All right. Quick text. Tony, how are you doing this morning? Tony. So Tony and I have been talking back and forth, chatting a lot. Tony was looking for some alternative access points, and I pointed him towards the Grandstream GWN series, which I'm going to be doing some follow-up videos on here very soon. They also have a Wi-Fi 6 AP coming out. But Tony, real quick, why don't you tell people your first impressions and what your experience has been? And I will tell you that every time we pulled out Ubiquiti access points last year, we either replaced them with Cambium or we replaced them with Grandstream. And the response to the Grandstream APs has just been good. Hopefully Tony is writing in the comments what his experience was. I wouldn't want to copy the text. I'd like Tony to kind of speak for it. Also, you'll see my coffee mug this morning that says, I don't need Google. My wife knows everything. I did not buy this. My wife actually bought this as kind of like a haha for our anniversary last year. But it's ginormous. And on the weekends is the only time that I drink more now than one legit cup of coffee. And so this is filled to the brim with Go Juice for today. Hey, Bob Carpenter. Grayson says, I would like to try out Wi-Fi 6 once I have a Planet Computer Astro Slide 5G shipped to me in June 2021. Good morning, Gibby. So what's interesting is, and we kind of talked about this last week, but CES was last week. And so we expected to see just a ton of Wi-Fi 6 stuff. I'm going to have to go through, kind of get the best of what was out there, best of what was released, best of what's coming, and see what's out there. It's very interesting. So this morning, what we're going to talk about a few things. So this week we've got a video, an upcoming video on this QNAP NAS, which has two 2.5 gig ports in the back. Now, somebody did ask in the comments of the last video, which, by the way, I was so excited about this that I had to make that follow-up video to actually talk about what 2.5 and 5 gig Ethernet was, give you links to standards and all that. But somebody asked, could we lag it together? So, yeah, we could create a lag out of these, but the problem that we're going to have is that my adapter that plugs into that switch is 5 gig and the ports on the switch are only 2.5. However, when we move to the other QNAP switch that has 5 gig, then that won't be an issue. All right, so good morning, Keith from Ireland. Good morning, Jan. Jan, sorry, hope I'm not butchering that. So Tony put in the comments there is his first impression is holy crap, outstanding. Initial test blew the doors off of the AC Pro. This is the exact same comments that I get from everybody where we install GrandStream after they've had Unified. The other thing is the firmware is very clearly marked beta on GrandStream, right? And you have to purposefully put the GrandStream beta firmware URL into those access points to get the beta firmware. So there's some really cool stuff. I told Tony, I said, go out and grab that beta firmware and go ahead and upgrade your access point to that beta firmware. There's a few bugs that I've reported, like SNMP. It doesn't report the system name. So there, it's very clearly beta. So as you're testing the beta, the point is to give feedback to the company so they can fix that. So I'm hoping that we get a new release of the GrandStream software on the GWN series that is going to address those SNMP issues. And I will tell you that James, which I don't know if he's on here or not, but we've reported several things with the GrandStream UCM, just little things that we would like to see, little things, and then they gain traction in the community. Like there's a beta firmware right now for the GrandStream UCM where we can actually restrict extension to extension calling. And that's something new. It's in the beta firmware, so we're going to test it. We're going to beat the crap out of it, and we're going to let GrandStream know, hey, this works or it doesn't. They also fixed a couple other issues in the firmware that we actually reported. So they are listening to us, and they understand the importance of keeping that firmware up to date. Now, a lot of you have asked me about the GrandStream UCM 6300 series, and if you go out to the firmware site for GrandStream and you look at the release notes from the UCM 6300 and the 6200, you'll see they're not quite to parity yet. But they are using different versions of Asterisk under the hood, and they do have different use case scenarios in some applications. So let's go over to the comments real quick. Roger says, good morning. I really enjoy your channel. I'm slowly building my Ubiquiti home network, UDM and switches, and I've learned a lot about firewall rules on your channel. Well, thanks, Roger. I hope everybody has taken a chance to watch those. I think I need to do like a generic video about firewall rules and about how firewalls handle that, and then maybe do a comparison between like a Palo Alto, an OpenSense, a pfSense, an Edge router, and a UCM, because there's really not going to be too much difference in how the firewall itself reads the rules. More of the difference in the firewalls comes from how the vendor, and anybody who's run a Fortinet can tell you, like the amount of policies on a Fortinet and a Sonic wall that you need to do something, or even a WatchGuard's actually easier than those two. But the amount of policies that you need on some of these firewalls is absolutely ridiculous. But that is the way that the vendor has made the choice to implement that. So we all just have to deal with it. All right. So Jack Squat says, let's set a new attendance record for this live stream. That would be fantastic. All right. Grayson says, I have one 2.5 gig PCI card in both my desktop and server. I get about 160 megabytes when transferring files between hard drives. So it could be, you definitely probably have a bottleneck there somewhere. So if we do the math, and I kind of explained this in the last video, and by the way, if you're in here watching and you can hear me and you're enjoying this, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy this content. So when we're talking about like theoretical numbers and like kind of like what we're seeing, what I see in the real world for 1 gig, and somebody mentioned this in the last video, that the relationship between bytes and bits is it's an 8-to-1 ratio, right? And so there's a whole thing with hard drive manufacturers, like how they advertise how many gigabytes, like 500 gigabytes. Well, you don't actually get 500 gigabytes of storage because of this relationship between bytes and bits. But in the real world, when we've got good, great 1 gig connections, we see between 110 and like 114, 115 megabits per second. Like if I'm getting 112 consistently, I am not going to complain about that at all. So if you take that multiplier, and I think we used 110 in the video. So let me run the calculator real quick. So 110 times 2.5. So like your max, like if you're getting, 275, 250, 275, I'm going to be happy with that. So you might have a bottleneck somewhere. It could have to do with your MTU size. There's all kinds of things that could go into why you're not seeing those max speeds. So the first thing that I would suggest that you do is that you probably set your MTU to jumbo frames 9,000 on everything and see if you get better speeds after that. Ryan Sharp asks, what's the difference between lag, LACP, and ether channels? Well, they are all accomplishing the same thing, Ryan. So ether channel is Cisco's kind of vernacular for a lag, or an LACP group, which is Link Aggregation Control Protocol, is LACP. Lag is the link aggregation group, and then ether channel is Cisco's way to do it. So it's just taking physical connections and logically bonding them together so that you get the benefits of the speed of having both of those together. Morning, George. All right, Grayson says the Ryzen line of CPUs are for consumers, and AMD does not support their CPUs used in servers. But because I want to keep the power consumption low, Ryzen 3 will have to do. So I'm trying to remember the name of the AMD server chip. We just deployed a couple of Dell servers. Each of them have 2 of these, and the server chips are fantastic. Gibby asked, do you have an update on the switches from Grandstream? Here is what I can tell you without telling you, is that they've solicited feedback. They are moving forward with the project. Of course, 2020 threw everything out of whack for everybody. 2021, not starting off smooth. It's just a continuation of last year. But I think you're going to see things get better. That being said, I wouldn't expect them to be available to the public until later in the year. And I don't even know when we're going to see a beta, because a lot of the beta programs got pushed off because of logistics issues, because of supply chain problems. So, and we've seen the supply chain issues kind of do this since last year. I mean, we were down here, and then we were, anybody who was trying to get webcams, last March and April, or laptops, business grade laptops, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, we'll figure that out. So stay tuned, because I'm always going to be doing updates on Grandstream. What I'm excited about for Grandstream is, and we just won a law firm. It's 3 sites, it's over 100 handsets, and different technologies, and we're going to be doing failovers and all kinds of things. But what I'm excited about on a project like that, somebody comes and they're like, okay, we've got this site, we're spinning it up. Even a medium to small site to a large site, what I can do now is, once they have those switches, we're going to be able to basically do a total turnkey network with one vendor, no finger pointing, and all of that. And for small sites, I think it's going to work well. It could even work well for large sites, although I can't speak to that now because I don't know how all the pieces are going to fit together yet. I don't know what I'm going to kind of go after the target market on that with. That's all going to be dependent on how many ports the switches have, how much PoE there is, because there's obviously a difference between a company who's going to deploy, a couple hundred phones and have servers and all this other stuff, and a company who's going to deploy 10 phones and, going to have a Synology as their server, which is, I love that solution. But, we're talking about apples and oranges when it comes to the performance and the scalability and things like that. Although that is the current state. If you haven't gone out and watched the DSM-7 web shows that they put together, Synology is going to be taking Microsoft Azure head on this year, and I'm super excited about it because we're going to be able to do authentication in the cloud. Their 2-factor authentication stuff they're going to have more options. We can now have backup domain controllers, and I think I got the green flag. I'll have to check my email, but I think I got the green flag to start DSM-7 videos. Now, I know there's a couple other YouTubers who are doing it, but we've been submitting bugs, hundreds of bugs to get fixed in DSM-7 between me and other people that I'm working with. We're submitting those because DSM-7, is going to be, if you just go look at it, and I've got a server, and you can go fill out my contact form at williehowe.com. I'll give you access to my DSM-7 installation that I have here. I have a couple of them, but I've got no problem giving usernames and passwords to people. You would obviously be a standard user, so you'd only get to use the apps that I have installed, because I don't want somebody installing something like Download Station, downloading a bunch of torrents. I don't want that. So we'll have to check that out. But yeah, let me know. Okay. Bob says, I know we can't talk about Beta Club for various companies. But does GrandStream do a decent job of testing with beta and experts like yourself? Yeah, so GrandStream, there's actually a couple different clubs inside of GrandStream. So you've got obviously the public side, which everybody can see. You've got GrandStream Insiders Club, which I'm a part of. James is a part of that. And a lot of other professionals in the realm are in that club as well. And they solicit feedback from us directly. Then you have Beta Club, which is kind of like that next step. And you can request to join Beta Club. The Insiders program is by invitation only. So unless you are probably working a lot with GrandStream and you're doing a lot of solutions, you may not get an invitation for that. You might, but I'm not sure what the criteria is. I've never really asked that. I know I was invited. They know we're selling thousands of handsets, dozens of UCMs. We're using their networking gear. I'm a GrandStream certified trainer. I'm a GrandStream certified expert, one of like 5 in North America. So we've got a major commitment to GrandStream. Now, that's not saying that we don't support other vendors, because we always like to have alternatives, and we don't like to always get locked into one vendor. I mean, a lot of people are feeling pinch points from that as we speak. So while GrandStream is our number one vendor, we do offer other solutions. And if you follow me, let me finish Bob's question. So yes, they do. They specifically get feedback from professionals who are deploying this in the field. And I'm pushing them on an issue right now with a customer that it's become a real hot button, is that they've got the wall unit, which you're going to see, they call it a control station. You're going to see a video on it. I bought it out of my own pocket, but they don't have a GrandStream UCM template yet, which means that when we want to make changes on 90 of these in a building, I have to touch 90 of these. And that is something that I've been pushing them very hard on. The customer is not super happy about it. He's been in communication with the reseller, and we're all trying to apply pressure to GrandStream. Hurry. I mean, we know the template's coming. It's on the roadmap, but people are now starting to deploy these. So now we need the template. But it's just like any other company in this kind of that market segment, is that they have, limited resources and things like that. And I don't know that they necessarily thought it was going to take off. Now, I'm going to stick up for them here. Last year was a cluster for all kinds of companies, and that unit got announced in 2019 in Mexico. And, September, I can't remember when the beta unit shipped. I think it was like December, right? So the beta unit shipped in like December. And then I don't know how many installations those started last year. I mean, it took us a while to source just 90 of them, right? So, I mean, it's not all GrandStream's fault. There are some things that are out of our control. But yes, Bob, they do. And I am allowed to talk about Beta Club with GrandStream as long as I preface that it is beta. Now, I will put an asterisk on that. There are some things they ask me not to talk about specifically, and those things I don't talk about. But I would say 95% of all things GrandStream beta, as long as I preface it with this is beta, it's subject to change, yes, I can talk about it. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Gibby says, I had to set 32 policies on a Sonic wall for Control 4. Yeah. So, and Bob Carpenter is correct. Epic is the AMD server CPU, and that thing is awesome. Let's see to the comments here. Blaine says, I have had a random Unify AP go offline for no apparent reason. Power Cycle port seems to bring them back online. Anyone else having issues running latest updates? I've seen this in a couple of sites now, and we've had to reboot the entire switch. I think it might be something to do with power. They've got 3 UAP AC Pros coming off of an 8-port Unify switch, the 60 watt, and all 3 of the APs will do the same thing connected to that. So they've either got a bad Ethernet run or something going on with cabling, or that switch is for some reason failing to supply the proper power and a reboot. And so my suggestion to the customer, was go to that site, because this site is like an hour and a half away from where he's at. Like, go to this site, take power injectors with you, plug the power injectors in, alleviate the switch of the PoE as a test, and then see if we go offline. If you don't go offline after that, then we definitely know we've got something going on with that switch. So, all right. Let's see. Yeah, Bob says he's had to reset, readopt to fix a problem like that. Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, we tried to power cycle the port the other night, didn't work, but a reboot of the entire switch does work. So I don't know. There must be something in there. Ryan Sharp says, good news, didn't die. Yes, I'm glad that you did not die. All right, Tony. Tony's got to run. If you don't know Tony over at Quick Tech Solutions, go check him out. His video quality is unbelievable. Video quality of YouTube videos, he has got it nailed, and very smart, and I like the way he presents his videos. It's good stuff. And Tony and I have become friends and kind of talking behind the scenes. Yeah, check out Quick Tech Solutions. All right. So what else are we going to talk about today? So we talked about, I started going down the road of other alternative vendors. And if you follow me on social media, you saw a little video of these flying voice phones. Now, we could use these. I've got one right here on my desk. You can't see it because the Ethernet cable's got it kind of strapped down. But this is the other model. This is the non-huge touchscreen version down here. This is like the, I think this might be the Android version. I've got to get it plugged in. It's the FIP 15G if anybody's interested in that. But the really cool thing about these flying voice phones is at least the one on my desk runs a fork of EWRT. And they don't even try to hide it. Like, they leave the UI the same. It's pretty cool. The phone provisioned, super easy. It picked up a lot of the buttons for the UCM, but we don't change a lot of those default options that are the same for Asterisk out of the box. And so a lot of these phones will recognize that to go to voicemail, it's a star 97 or a star 98. I didn't have to do anything to this phone. The MWI worked, message waiting indicator worked out of the box. There's some really cool things. I did a little video, but if I just hit the OK button, it automatically brings up the status. There's little things like that I like. Now, where would we probably pair one of these phones with? And I'm going to do a review on these phones, but I would probably pair these with like a different manufacturer's PBX, or if there was a specific function that these phones do, which we got to dig into that other phones don't, then we would possibly pair it with a UCM. But we are going to definitely show you how broad our offerings are this year. If you've seen James, you know he's a free PBX expert, and so I'm excited for what he's going to be showing. So this is a larger flying voice phone. You can see it's got very few buttons, right? Which might lead us to think that this is probably some sort of a touch screen on here. But what I was really impressed with is overall how thin these phones are. And they're very thin. But that also now causes an issue for me because they come with a stand that goes in the back. Now I'm going to do like I said, a full video on these here in the next week or two. But the one thing that I like is it does come with a stand. Now here, you'll notice they have the wall mount built into the plastic of the phone. That's a blessing and a curse, in my opinion. Why is that a blessing and a curse? Well, I want to run PoE on this, and I want to run, maybe I don't want to run PoE. Maybe I want to use the DC power jack. You've all seen DC power jacks. The plug is about that long. I've got my Ethernet ports over here. So why, to me, is this problematic just at first glance? So you can all chime in, and because I think you can see it right now with the phone being so thin. But here's the problem that I think that I'm going to run into. And let me grab an Ethernet cable so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Nice thin phone, Ethernet jacks there. So guess what? I need to plug into PoE on this. And now all of a sudden, you can see where the cable is going to very clearly cause us an issue with that wall mount, right? So now obviously I've got to try it. I've got a piece of drywall right here that we're going to mount all kinds of stuff to. So I'm going to try this. But for me, quick glance, that is problematic. The other thing that I'm trying to figure out on this phone, and I may have to, I've got I've got the manual for it, but right here on most phones that we sell, you've got a little clip so that you can put the handset on there and it doesn't fall off. And you can also see on the handset, there's a little indent there that acts as like a receiver. I cannot get that little piece of plastic. I must be just doing something wrong. Like I must not have the touch on this, but I cannot get that little piece of plastic to like pop out. I think these phones are very promising. Go check out Flying Voice. The one phone that I wanted, the one that I really wanted to review, is something that I've been telling other other VoIP suppliers, other VoIP manufacturers that we've been working with that we need. And it is a phone that has no display, but has huge buttons, right? So like we could put this in retirement centers. We could put this in places where people have vision issues and need the large buttons. Then you can put, Braille on those large buttons. So not, I mean, you start bringing accessibility to the phones, and also then their voice over IP, right? I could very easily see it used as a phone in a hotel or a condo unit or something like that, because it's a SIP phone, and I don't have to have an ATA on the back end. I don't have to have any kind of converter. As long as it's SIP and it works with the standard system, then we're golden. But we need large button phones. We need large button phones. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing gets mounted. And I'm going to film every minute of that. And I'm going to film it, me hanging a Grandstream phone and then me trying to hang these, because I definitely think just first glance that I'm going to have some issues. So, but I'm excited because the software, I'm excited because the phone is thin. I'm excited because the software on them, this other one, especially the DDWRT, just blew my mind. Like I've never seen a phone with DDWRT. And I've got to get into this one. I'm going to ship a couple of these down to James so that he can look at them as well, give me his thoughts. And he logged into the one here that's on my desk, and I've been using it for calls. And he's like, they didn't even try to hide that. I'm like, no, they didn't. That's what's kind of great about it. So real quick, let's go to the comments. All right, Tony's out. Yeah, and Ryan, so Jacob Johnson, if you're listening, not only have you, kind of been awesome with me, but in turn, I paid that forward. And Ryan Sharp has one of those Dell servers. I've still got one. I'm going to keep it. But Ryan is learning the IT trade and was looking for something to run PFSense or OpenSense. And so I paid it forward and gifted him one of those servers that you gifted me. And he is, I think might have some environmental issues, if that's what I'm understanding. Hey, Jay Shell, Polycom, I've back before all the acquisitions happened with Polycom. I mean, for me, their conference phone used to be the gold standard, not so much anymore. I really liked their older phones because they were like a nice, heavy, like we had a receptionist phone with sidecars we were testing, and I really liked them. I don't know much since they've gone through all of the acquisitions and things like that. I haven't really tried anything. But if you could email me the model number and things like that, I'd love to take a look at it. Maybe Polly will send one over to do a review or whatever. So, all right, Keith, be well. Yeah. So yeah, everybody's saying that there should be a standoff, and Ryan Sharp, absolutely. We need a voice over IP jitterbug. And in fact, I was actually, I carry two phones. I carry one for work, and I have a personal phone. And the phones were getting bigger, and I have small hands, but I like the small phone. I like distraction free. And unless you turn off all your notifications and all that stuff, which, I mean, you can totally do. I mean, these phones, long story short, they now have smartphones that are distraction free. Palm's got one and all this other stuff. And I've thought about really switching to a distraction free smartphone. I'm on the fence about that. I'm trying to take back more control over the content that I see. And I think going to like a distraction-free phone, I'll tell you that after I watched Social Dilemma, I turned off lots of notifications for all kinds of apps, and I think I actually feel better. So we'll see. All right. Hey, Unky Joe in the house. So Unky Joe emailed me yesterday, and he wanted to know if I sent him a beta product from Unify and a doorbell, and I did not. I wish I would have thought about stuff like that. I'm actually getting ready to send everybody in the Tech Quartet a little something, but it's awesome that somebody sent Unky Joe that gear. So hopefully he's going to throw caution to the wind and do a video for us, because we know how he feels about Ubiquity. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Unky Joe, I don't know if you can comment in the comments about that. Coffee's so good. All right, let's talk a little bit about cabling and standards and all that good stuff. Now, I ordered this box of cabling a while ago to do some videos on it. And I thought I'd make like a board. I think we talked about this. Like I was going to take like a piece of drywall, put my company logo at the top, and then I was going to like put the different types of cables, you know, like when you see like a butterfly collection or you see like a leaf collection or something like that. I was going to do with a cable collection because I thought that was pretty cool. And so I work with a company now. I don't like get affiliate links or anything like that, but I work with a company called Show Me Cables. They're in Missouri. And the reason that I work with them is because I can buy any different length of bolt cable that I want. So I've been thinking about, I asked people in the last video, the 2.5 gig video, not the one from OpenVPN last night, but I asked people like, hey, what do you want to see me test to see if we can get these 2.5 gig standards? And then when we do a 5 gig video, what do we want to do? And I got all kinds of cool answers. And I was thinking, like, where the hell am I going to get like Cat 3, like some of this cable? Now, I think I've got a roll of 8 conductor, what I would consider Cat 3. It's poorly twisted. It's not rated. I think I've got that out in the garage. But what I do have is I have this box of cable, and I've got all different kinds of 1 meter samples. So like this one is Cat 6 UTP, 600 megahertz outdoor UV rated. So I've got this. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking these 1 meter samples and using these as my 1 meter samples, because theoretically, like this cable right here, which is, let's see, not even meant really for data communications the way that we think about it, but it has 8 conductors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, this is a very light cable. You can tell it's very cheap. You know, why not take a meter of this, tell you what it is, throw the ends on it and see if it'll pass 2.5 gig. I think, you know, here's like flat Ethernet cable. Now, what is this? This is actually it actually doesn't tell me, but I know I found it under the Cat 5 section on the website. But, you know, what do you think? You think if I take a meter of this and I throw an end on it that it's going to pass at 2.5 gig? I don't know that it is. I mean, the amount of electrical problems that I think that this is going to have, I don't think, and we could start like a spreadsheet or something to track these and see, hey, did it do it? Now, obviously, you know, like this stuff that's meant for like plant stuff that's got like 25 or 50 pair in it. Obviously, I'm not going to terminate anything on that. What is this? This is outdoor. This is Cat 5e direct burial. So this has an even different profile. The twists are different. I mean, and then here is everybody's favorite, like other flat Ethernet cable. This is, you know, so you put this under a desk, under a chair. So what do you think? I don't think that this will like do, I mean, this could cause all kinds of problems. Like if you put like PoE over this, is that going to work? I mean, I don't know. Like this, like I ordered this box of cable, like I said, because I'm going to like, I think before I put ends on it, like I'll cut like 5 to 8 inches off so I can put it on my cable board, you know, my cable identification board. But I mean, I literally have like 25 different types of cable in here. I've got house pairs. You know, here is some, this is Belden. What is this? Belden Data Twist Cat 5e. I mean, you name it. I think I've got it in here. I mean, here's some standard 4-conductor cable, which is what you typically see for just a standard phone. Here's some like super duper thick. Oh, for those of you calling for like Cat 7 cables, no, that's not even like a, I mean, it's a thing, but like we're not using it in the US, I don't think. Let's see, what is this one? So here's a Cat 7A, Elite Cat 7A. You should see how thick this cable is. Let me get some Cat 6. So even like this Cat 6 direct burial stuff, right? Maybe I need to get some Cat 8. But like this is Cat 7A, which I don't know anybody who's using this in the States. So here's Cat 7A, and here is like a Cat 6. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus on that. Come on now, focus. Yeah, it's not gonna, there it goes. But look how thick that Cat 7A is compared to a 6A. I mean, it's ridiculous. This thing is like, I mean, could you imagine trying to, I mean, I guess the one good thing, and I haven't undone that, what they did was when they cut all these samples, they were probably like, first of all, this guy is a jerk. But second of all, they actually gave me the part number on a piece of tape. But I mean, this cable's so thick, you should have no problems. I mean, it is stiff. Holy cow. Like, you would have absolutely no issues pushing that straight through a wall. So I'm going to dig through the box, and we're going to use that. I thought that'd be pretty cool. I'm going to go dig through the garage. Like, I know I've got some like Cat 5, Cat 5e out there. I know I've got like that super cheap 8-conductor, and we're going to use that as well. So, all right. Bob says like 1990s. What was that Cat 3 ever certified for? I don't think Cat 3 was certified for data communications at all. That's not saying I haven't seen it used. You know, I've walked into places that have, I mean, that's a thing, right? When you don't have data people doing that kind of stuff and you expect other people to do it, they don't necessarily know. So I can't always blame that person. Sometimes people are put in positions, told to do things, and they do the best with what they've got. So, oh, Bob, that's a good idea. So I do have the FLIR camera. I could do a thermal video of that. I don't think it's going to change much with the PoE, but it would be interesting to see what happens. Blaine says 16 meg. That's what we expect to get through there. Let's talk about the Ubiquity data breach. So James was all over it, released a video. And if you got the email and you haven't acted yet, so here's the deal. Even though if you had two-factor authentication turned on, we're hearing rumblings that somebody at Ubiquity has told somebody else that you need to go in, turn two-factor off, and turn it back on. So, like, if you haven't done that, go do that. Go turn two-factor off, rekey it, and do that. And make sure you've changed your Ubiquity password. Don't use the same password at if you're using a password manager, that's great. Real quick, bear with me. I just want to plug this in so that I don't forget, so that later it is charged and I am not cussing myself for that. By the way, I'm going to do a video on the Remarkable because that device has absolutely already had a huge impact on the way that I take notes, on the way that I remember things, on the way that I'm organizing things. Like, it's helping me put things in folders properly, and it's great. So I'm going to do a video on that. But here's the really cool thing, is I charge it on Christmas Day. I usually use it every other day for at least a half hour, and it's at like 87% battery. So we're going to be going on a month here in the next 9 days, and this thing's not even down to 75% battery. It's mind-blowing. So the other thing is I had to, so believe it or not, this machine that we're live streaming on is my video editing machine, and it's a laptop, but it does not have a Thunderbolt or a USB-C connector. Another laptop that I do have has at least a USB-C, and I'm hoping it's Thunderbolt, because if not, I might have to go buy a MacBook Pro. What are your thoughts on that? Now, I'm going to do an updated video. I have a Mac Mini right here to the right of me. It can't run the latest Mac OS, but I am going to get it updated so I can do some videos like installing TunnelBlick and things like that, because that installation should pretty much be the same on the version of Mac OS that this can run. But I've thought about investing in that MacBook Pro, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't know how everybody else out there feels about it. You know, would you like to see PC videos and then how to do it on Mac and how to do it on Linux? Like when we do some of these things, should we do all three? It's not a big deal. I just need to know if people are hungry for it, if there's, you know, if people are going to watch it, because I mean, like a MacBook Pro is very expensive. I consider it to be very expensive. And I would make the investment as long as I think that it, you know, it's going to pay off for people. All right. Roger says, my house came wired with Cat 3 for phone extensions, and I've successfully repurposed it for Ethernet wiring and some hard to wire runs. Now, Roger, does that mean when you repurposed it? In my mind goes a couple different ways. Does that mean you clip the ends off and you use it as a pull string to pull the new Cat 5e or the Cat 6 through there? Or does that mean that you are actually running data over it at acceptable speeds? Are you negotiating at a gig? Are you transferring at a gig? Do you have any way to test that? Roger Hassel, please let us know that in the comments. Bob says, yes, re-rolling your 2FA is a very good idea for any data breach because they may have gotten the pre-shared key on the other side. So this is something that I've heard people say is like common sense. And I don't think for a lot of people that it would be common sense, because you hear people talk like 2FA, that's what's going to like slow people down from breaching you. You never really make that connection that 2FA is also going to be compromised or could be compromised because of the way it's marketed, right? And so this is the same argument that what is common sense for a doctor is not what is, common sense for the guy making your pizza, right? Two different sets of skills, two different sets of common sense, right? So when we have that message, I feel that Ubiquiti should have put that in the message. Now, people are like all over Ubiquiti, like, why aren't they telling us more? Where's the transparency? And I've talked to other security professionals about this. And I've sat in 2020, I sat in 2 meetings with lawyers, insurance companies, and all these other things. And it has to do with how do you deal with a data breach. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that because of the liability involved, like the technical people just can't start like being like, this is what happened. This is what happened. That's not how a data breach works. That's not how a data breach works at all. Like maybe you get somebody leaking that information, but when a data breach occurs, lawyers get involved. Insurance companies get involved. And when that happens, the lawyer is doing their job by telling the technical people, this is all the information you can release. They're doing all kinds of work on the back end. They're doing autopsies. It's not something that happens overnight. A data breach is not analyzed in usually 24 hours. If it's a very simple data breach, and you've got a log that shows an IP address and that a user accessed it and then data was taken, you might be able to wrap that one up in 24 hours. A lot of these breaches are much more complicated than that, and you do not have an autopsy done in 24 hours. And because everybody's so sue happy, there's so even if you've got insurance that cyber liability insurance, there's still going to be civil suits, right? Which is something completely different. And everybody's trying to point a finger, trying to find somebody to blame. So eventually you will see more information, but stop pinging Ubiquiti being like, be transparent, be transparent. Like the lawyers are involved. There's a whole process that's going to be followed. At some point you will get further transparency, but it doesn't happen overnight. They did the disclosure that they were probably required to do, and the only information you got is what the lawyers told them. Now they could have told you to reset your 2-factor. That's kind of where I was going with this. But you have to understand the anatomy of a data breach and all the logistics and everything that go behind it. While the breach itself may have been technical in nature, there is so much more to remediating and handling a data breach than people realize. So just pump your brakes, cool your tool, And you will get more information when the lawyers tell Ubiquiti that they can give you more information, because something like this can seriously affect how people perceive your products, places where your products are allowed. I mean, there's all kinds of ramifications that come with a data breach. And sometimes the court of public opinion is worse than anything else, right? So the lawyers are containing the situation. So just hold off on that and give them a minute to breathe. All right, Gibby says, Cecil says, yes, get an Apple. Mad Mech says Apple prices are ridiculous. I mean, it's a lot of money for a MacBook Pro. Gibby says, I have a Mac with parallels for the Windows side. Okay, Gibby, is it the new MacBook Pro with the M1? That's my question, right? So if I'm going to get a MacBook Pro with the M1, can I run Windows in a VM? And can I run Linux in a VM? I need to know these things, because it would be nice to have one machine where I can boom, 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 do all that. I don't mind switching machines, but if I had one place, that would be fantastic. Cecil, Mad Max says, I use a MacBook Air and it works just as well as the Pro. Cecil says, get the MacBook Air for OS demos, much cheaper, same experience. MJ says, MacBook Air for the win. Mad Max says, yes, I also upgrade the Air with 1 terabyte SSD and parallels, works perfect. Now, Mad Max, does that MacBook Air have the M1 chip? Is it? Abile, sorry if I totally messed your name up there. I think it's overpriced. If you were to invest in a Mac computer, I would go with the Mac Mini. See, this, I'm torn. Like, when I bought this laptop for the business, like, I knew exactly what I was looking for. I needed something that could do video editing, something that could run, Google Chrome with 6 tabs open, right? Like, so there were some requirements there. With the Mac, I'm really torn on which way to go. Roger says, I'm running Ethernet, mostly 100 megabits, but the short ones negotiate at 100 gigs. So Roger Hassel, those Cat 3 runs that are negotiating at 100 meg, do you know how long those are by chance? Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize, and this is something we need to talk about, everybody's like, I need gigabit, I need multi-gigabit, I need 10 gigabit, I need 40 gigabit, I need 100 gigabit. No, you probably don't, right? So if we look at your data speeds, like security cameras, a lot of them are still coming with 100 meg ports. They're not negotiating at a gig. There's no reason to have a gigabit port in most cameras. All right, let's see. Patrick says, I have a Ubiquiti UDM, but saw they released, I can't talk about beta. So Patrick, you'll have to go to the community, do reading, or hit me up offline. Bob Carpenter says, great point, Willie. Look at how much stuff we're still unwinding about the SolarWinds mess. That thing is going to be, we are going to be analyzing the SolarWinds mess and the impact on the federal government of the United States for a long time. Yeah. Unky Joe says, in Texas, if a data breach occurs, you have to hire a licensed forensics team to discover what happened. And if you have cyber liability insurance, a lot of times they have those break the glass kind of like phone numbers that you can call to start that investigation immediately. It used to be in PCI compliance when you were dealing and you were putting together kind of some of your action plans, that the first thing that you did was reach out to your marketing department. That is not the first thing that you do in a data breach anymore. You don't put out, until you've contacted the proper authorities and the proper regulatory bodies and things like that, you don't immediately put anything out. You just don't. All right. Gibby says that in Oklahoma, you also have to hire a licensed forensics team. Blaine says, please explain re-rolling your 2FA key. So if you go to account.ui.com, change your password, first of all, but then what you want to do is you want to turn off two-factor authentication. Don't delete from Authy or Google Authenticator if you've already got it there. You might have to put one in to turn it off. I can't remember. I did it last week. But then once you've turned two-factor off, go ahead and delete that from your app. Go ahead and re-enable two-factor on your account and then re-add it to your 2FA program that you use, and you should be good to go. Yeah. And Bob Carpenter says, turn it off, and turn it on again. You're telling it to make a new shared key. That's exactly it. Thank you, Bob. Ryan says, interesting news. Keep Solid is selling lifetime license for their VPN unlimited service for $40. Please don't post a link. I don't know anything about them. I need to vet them. So a lot of VPN companies still do track where you're going. If they get a subpoena, they're going to release that information. I mean, you can very clearly go out and see where some VPN companies are not anonymizing your data. So please don't post a link to that. If you want me to take a look at it, shoot it to me in an email. Paul says, M1 MacBook Pro will only run RISC-based VM. So that kind of puts Windows out. So I've heard that there's some like patches and things that you can do to make it run, but it probably wouldn't be complete. So not that, like I said, I am totally down with having a couple different machines on the desk. We buy MacBook Pros for people all the time, and I don't get trouble calls and things like that. The software just seems to work, and when I was on the Apple bandwagon, the stuff just kind of worked, but then I had limited control over it and things like that. And I don't like to put all of my eggs in one basket. So we'll see what happens. Ron says, is the Ubiquity breach for cloud logins or also local logins or both? So a lot of times those local logins are your cloud logins, Ron. So please make sure you change your Ubiquity password. If you've got 2FA turned on, turn it off, turn it back on. Also, if you don't have 2FA, the question is, why don't you have 2FA? Enable 2FA on your account. All right, so Mad Max says this one is a 2017 1.8 gigahertz dual-core Intel i5. So here's my question to all of you that are running Apple. If I buy the last gen MacBook Pro that does not have the M1 chip in it, how long am I going to be able to continue to get OS updates, those new OS updates? Because I don't want to even spend the money on that, and then I only get a year of OS updates, right? So is it worth it to buy into the M1 platform, have a separate machine, or is it worth it to buy one gen older that's still running Intel, and then count on being able to upgrade for 18 months, 24 months? Like if I could get 2 years out of it, I would be ecstatic, right? So I could justify that on a one generation, like a 2020 model or whatever, right? Or 2019. I can't even remember what it would be now. But if I'm only going to get like 12 months of, I'm not going to, I might as well go with the M1 and just have a separate machine. Somebody please help me in the comments, because it's been so long since I followed that I've really got no idea. Unky Joe, I actually have some really good news for you on the NIST 800-151 compliance. And so you actually can do a self-certification. I was just talking to a client this week about it who has gone through it. And I have a spreadsheet from another company that actually walks you through that. So please, Unky Joe, please email me like now, or hop in the Hangouts that we've got. And I want to get you that spreadsheet because I did download it. And I'm going to do a video on that. Jack Squat says, if you're willing to drop the loot, take a look at the Kubuntu Focus. Yeah, I might have to take a look at that. Patrick says, do you know if WPA3 comes soon for Ubiquity? And if so, are there already devices you can purchase? So that's going to be a software-driven thing. And if you are running that beta stuff, you may see that in there already. It may not be on the older APs, though. It may be new APs. I don't know. I think you need to go back and watch one of my other videos. We may have maybe glanced at something that said WPA3. Unky Joe also says, with those standards, the documentation for compliance costs around $4,500 to have company work up the documents for you. Then you still have to make your own network meet the spec. And that's the whole thing, right, about compliance, whether it's HIPAA compliance, SOX compliance, PCI compliance, whether you've got red flag rules, whether, whatever these compliance programs are. The one thing that I will say about compliance programs is it makes you take a nice, hard, long look at your security posture, at the things you're doing, and you actually have to pay attention to it. So that is one kind of good thing, because if you have to be compliant to continue to do business, at least you know at some point that somebody is going to have to write a check to make these things happen. Now, do I always agree with parts of the compliance? No. I could go on all day about things about PCI compliance that drive me absolutely crazy. I was just talking to Tom Lawrence about it last week when we looked at his Cisco switches. And like one of the things that drives me crazy about other companies that provide PCI scans or external security scans is a lot of these companies are just using an automated piece of software, and it may see that you're running Apache 2.4. Well, it doesn't go any further. It sees Apache 2.4, it stops. So if Ubuntu or Debian have patched Apache for their systems, and now the release version of Apache that you're running is Apache 2.4, dash Ubuntu 6.2 fix, whatever. I just made that up. That's not really how it works, but the software that they're using doesn't see that. So they see you're running Apache 2.4, boom, automatic fail. The other thing I will tell you is that a lot of this new compliance software with WordPress, we are running like the latest version of WordPress on websites, and it is still detecting as WordPress 5.5.1 or prior. And so we're getting an automatic fail. Guess what? There's no human following up on that to do any footwork. And so like when I'm contracted to do scans, I am using an automated piece of software, but I am manually, before I give the report over, I am manually verifying all of that. I'm also looking for pain points, weak points, and I have a contract that we use that's negotiated because there's a lot of liability in this, where I will actually manually start like pushing on things to see like, okay, is this really a thing? If this is a thing, how bad is this thing? And so, but a lot of these big companies, a lot of these nationwide auditors and things like that, they don't do that. What they do is they do the scan, they fail you. And then if you want human clarification, they charge it out at $200 an hour. So it's like, it's a great marketing scam. You know what I mean? Like it really is. And so there's a lot of other security people besides these big nationwide companies that people should be looking at who understand this, because it's also not just about scanning the technology. There's a lot of other things, business processes, training. There's all kinds of things that fall under security, and just having that scan isn't the answer. So we'll definitely talk about this. So Paul Conway says 2 or 3 years for macOS updates. They support current release and past 2 releases. So I could, I guess, go ahead and get a generation older MacBook, which may not be a bad thing. Let's see. Mad Max says new Macs with Intel chips are still in the pipeline, and the company is planning to support Intel-based macOS computers for years, despite announcing ARM-based Apple Silicon. That is great news. So maybe I will go ahead and pick up 1 generation older. It's going to be probably, hopefully, less inexpensive. Let me ask you this. I usually don't recommend Best Buy, but a lot of times I find myself recommending Best Buy. And there's 2 reasons that I can do it. If I need something, sometimes I can get it now. They've started carrying like that one-off, like weird stuff that a lot of us need, which is great. But they also have a 15-day, no questions asked return policy, which I really like, which is why I am. And there's a lot of local stores, so we can make this transaction happen very quickly, unlike like Amazon. A lot of the mom and pop shops also don't carry some of that stuff. Like I like the mom and pop shops if they carry it. A lot of times they don't. So my question to you is, has anybody ever bought open box anything from Best Buy? Would you do it again? What is your experience? Somebody out there listening, please tell me, what is your experience with open box Best Buy? Do you recommend it? Would you do it again? Because I can save several $100s on top of whatever the price is if they have an open box in the store. So also, if you are hearing this and you're watching, you've been around, you like the content, please make sure to give me that thumbs up real quick, just to let YouTube know you're interested. All right. So let's see. Bob Carpenter says, I thought WPA3 was only in Wi-Fi 6 and newer. Nope. It's in other things, Bob. Also, for those of you who use Signal, if you're not using it, why not? Now, I know why you're not using it starting yesterday and today. They have experienced probably one of the greatest growth booms in app history ever since Elon Musk went out and said, use Signal because it's secure end-to-end and all this other stuff. And so their servers, they're trying to scale it up. They're having issues. I mean, they've onboarded tens of millions of new customers. Like before Elon tweeted, they had like 10 million active users, and those of us who've used it know who we are. But then there was this huge boom, and they've brought on like 50, 60, 70 million. I don't even know. At one point, the number I saw, within a week, it was 40 million new users. And so it just keeps going up and up and up. So hang in there. If you're using Signal, they will get it fixed. Yeah, so Unky Joe says that compliance is a pain in the rear. However, he understands why they require it, but people are still the weakest link in the chain. Absolutely. And that's why, if you go back a couple of years, I've got this video called what I call the security jawbreaker. And it talks about end user training. It talks about not shaming your users. It talks about not thinking that you're better than your users. I run into a lot of administrators, a lot of staff people who will make fun of people that have technical problems, technical issues. And it's not necessarily just IT staff. It's other staff who hear that there was an issue, and now all of a sudden they're going to ride somebody about it. We can't have that. We absolutely cannot have that, because we need people talking to us, because people are, whether you want to believe it or not, I can show you time after time how people are the greatest defense mechanism that we have against cyber threats. And so people need to be treated like people. We need to educate people. Do not talk down to people. And I know so many IT people that talk down to people, and it's ridiculous. And it's like, dude, you're killing your own career. You're a smart dude, but you're not a smart dude. You're a smart gal. You're not a smart gal. You have to be able to empathize. You have to be able to touch that user, because if you're a butt to those users are going to hate you. Those users are not going to like you. Those users are going to write their passwords on sticky notes. They're not going to listen to your advice. You've just created your own worst problems because you don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to proceed. And I'm not saying you have to be the world's greatest people person and throw parties, but you have to be able to empathize. You have to be able to understand people. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't, you know what I mean? And so you have to be good to people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you're in security, your life is going to go much further, and you're going to have a much better relationship, and it's going to be easier to get these things, even what we would consider common sense, implemented and actually help people be more secure. You have to help them understand. Some people don't understand. So if you're one of those people who talks down to other people, shame on you. Fix that problem. All right. Unky Joe says he has a Blankintosh working great. I still don't know how I feel about that. I tried that years ago, but Michael says, can you do a video on Chromecast over different VLANs and the guest network? So many people can't figure it out. Shoot me an email on that. Maybe we'll add that to the list. Grant Beatle says, do you have any recommendations for tough/industrial type switches? Okay. I actually have one on the shelf made by Planet that you're going to see. I actually bought it before we moved, and it's on the list of things to do. It mounts on a DIN rail. It's DC powered. I've got a DC power supply. We're going to mount it on this. That is coming. So yes, I do have some insight into industrial switches. Planet makes a really good 8-port managed industrial DC powered switch. It's good stuff. All right, let's see. Unky Joe says, I think in the long run. So this is another conversation that we could have, cloud versus on-prem. You're going to see once DSM-7 comes alive, I'm going to make a huge push for hybrid if you're going to do cloud. I don't always trust Microsoft. I don't trust everything they do. I mean, Microsoft has very clearly figured out that, people want other things. And so what they've done is, okay, we can't beat open source, so we'll just host it. I mean, and their business model works for them. I'm not always a fan of everything these cloud providers do. So I like to be in control of that data. DSM-7 is going to make the hybrid cloud. You're going to really see how important, how quickly we can ramp that up and scale it up. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So Mike says, Best Buy OpenBox has been great for me on PC, laptops, and TVs. Best Buy will price match Amazon. That's interesting. So if Best Buy will price match Amazon, now you've got my attention. Unky Joe says, my clients are pressuring me to not use Amazon, so I've been using more Newegg here lately. Well, do your clients know that Newegg have they looked at who Newegg is owned by? Have they looked at all that? So do some research into that, Unky Joe, and let me know what you think about that. Let's see. Bob says, seed a parking lot at a company with bad thumb drives. I've seen this work over and over and over again. So that's one of the main things that we actually stress. And here's the thing, Bob. It's very interesting. And this is actually, we're revamping our security training, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. But a lot of times now we're not seeing it seated in the parking lots. A lot of times what people are doing is they are addressing USB drives to people. And so now it gets put right on the desk of the CFO or the CTO or whatever, and then do people plug it in, right? It's a crazy world. So it seems to me that open box is the way to go. Rodney, thank you for being here, and I appreciate you being here to watch. Gibby says, educating the customer is better than blaming them. Absolutely. Absolutely. We can have the most expensive Palo Alto firewalls, the greatest Arista and Juniper and Extreme and Cisco switches that exist. We can have all that. We can dump millions of dollars into our IT infrastructure, but if we don't dump just as much sweat equity into our users and making them our greatest asset, it takes one person to undo that millions of dollars worth of security. It just really does. Yeah, DSM-7 is actually awesome. So is the servers will be used in the future? Yeah, I'm not sure what that comment was, but you're all here. Will the Dream Machine have a good firewall? Yeah, the Dream Machine firewall is okay. Dream Machine needs some work. But here's where we're at. It is 9:35 a.m. I've got to take off, got to go to the post office. We got to take our son to work. Got all kinds of things we got to catch up on. I want to thank you for being here with me today. If you're here, make sure you hit that thumbs up button so YouTube understands that you like this content. I appreciate all that. All our contact links are down below. Affiliate links are down below. I do appreciate you all. And as always, I will see you in the next video. And I'm hitting the end stream button, and there we go.